Hello everyone, how's it going? My name's Nillorama and welcome to a new Dead by Daylight spin-off series. It's more of a debate discussion series where I explain my opinions on certain topics. Today's topic is going to be why I think the Legion is a weak killer and possible ways to remedy that fact. Now, I do hope this episode will reach more of a broader audience than the normal people that watch my video. I hope this gets people talking and more people see it. So I'm just going to first introduce myself. I'm Nillorama. I've been playing Dead by Daylight for 2,700 hours. I've been playing since the very first day at launch. I hit rank 1 regularly every rank reset, and I play Survivor and Killer. 80% of the time I'm Survivor, and 20% of the time I'm a Killer. Now, I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know there will be some comments below saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't play a lot, or you haven't played long enough, or you're not playing at rank 1, or that you're just a Survivor main bitching. The fact that I am a Survivor main bitching about the Killer should be reason for concern. And now I'm not tooting my own horn, not trying to show off. I just want to show that I've been playing the game for a while and that I do think that I have a good grasp on the game. And I'm not just some rank 20 bitching that Freddy's OP. But anyway, this video is going to be broken up into several sections. I will be explaining the Legion's power. I will be explaining good things about the chapter that I like and I think are good. And then we will be getting into the more salty side of this video, where I'll be discussing why the new borrowed time change is not good, why the Legion's power is not good, why the Legion's frenzy speed is not good, why the Legion's movement speed is not good, why some of the add-ons for the Legion are not good, and some of them are confusing, and some don't even work. And then I will be explaining fixes for the Legion that I think will make them better, and that will be separated into needed fixes that I think need to be added to make the Legion better, and then there will be fixes that are just extra that they could add in if they wanted to. Now, when it comes to the fixes, I just want to say I don't think that every one of these should be in. I just think that the needed fixes have higher priority. Some of them are fixes that I think do need to be immediately changed, and I will tell you when I get there which ones those are, because there's a few in there that just make him awful. Anyway, now I will go into what a borrowed time is if you're not familiar with it. Borrowed time is a perk that is exclusive to Bill on PC, or it is a general perk that you'll find while leveling up your characters on console. And what the perk does is that when you unhook someone within the killer's terror radius, the unhooked survivor will get a 15-second timer, and if they are hit when that timer is still active, they will get a 25-second bleed out timer, where if they don't heal themselves within that amount of time, or if they're hit by the killer again, they will go down. They'll be in the dying state. Now, I want to describe the effects and interactions of the old borrowed time. The old borrowed time was affected by healing perks, both good and bad. So it would be affected by Chorophobia, which slows down healing, and it would be affected by Thanatophobia, which slows down action speed, and it would be affected by Botany Knowledge, which speeds up healing action, and it would be affected by Leader, which speeds up healing action as long as you come across someone with Leader. Now, 2 of those were killer perks and 2 of those were survivor perks, which shows that perks did affect your healing rate for the old borrowed time. Old borrowed time was considered a healing action, and thus was made visible when used Nurse's Calling. Your aura would show up when you were trying to heal out of borrowed time. And the old borrowed time would take 32 seconds for you to heal out of borrowed time, and then heal your injured state. And also, just to mention, old borrowed time, you would know that you had it because you would get a notification, a status notification in the right-hand side of your screen, and then when you still had the timer, your screen would go black and white, and you would see a bleed out bar underneath your name in the bottom left to show that borrowed time was active. New borrowed time came with a status effect, so instead of calling it borrowed time, if you experience the borrowed time like physical state, you are said to have deep wounds. Now, this deep wound state is like when exhaustion wasn't named in the game, but everyone knew what the general idea of exhaustion was because the perk, for example, Sprint Burst, would say that it had a 40-second cooldown at tier 3. When exhaustion came in, it just said that the perk caused exhaustion, which was the 40-second cooldown. Deep wounds is just the state you're in when you are hit, when you have borrowed time, or when you're hit by the Legion's power Feral Frenzy, which I'll get into later. And for this discussion, I will probably be calling deep wounds borrowed time a lot because that's what I originally know it as. But the deep wound status effect is not affected by healing perks. It is not affected by chorophobia, so if you're within the killer's terror radius, it will not go slower. Thanatophobia does not affect it. Botany knowledge will not make it speed up. Leader will not make it speed up. Deep wounds is not seen by Nurse's Calling because it's not considered a healing action, which I'll get to later. Deep wounds timer when active, so after you were hit and deep wounds is active, the timer stops while you're in a chase. Also, I should mention that borrowed time was slightly nerfed. Instead of having a 25-second bleed out timer at tier 3, you now have a 20-second bleed out timer at tier 3. But that really doesn't matter because new borrowed time and deep wounds, respectively, the timer stops when you're in a chase. Also, when healing yourself out of deep wounds, instead of just calling itself healing, they have called the action of healing out of deep wounds or borrowed time mending, and the time to mend is about 10 seconds long, and this is not affected by healing perks like I said. Also, I'm just going to say, when you are in the deep wound state, your screen is covered in blood drips and it's slightly darker, and you'll also have that bleed out timer under your name. Things that the old borrowed time and the deep wounds state have in common is that they both give a survivor a second chance when they are hit, when they have it, and they also both need to have the survivor fully heal themselves before they're able to come out of the state. Now, onto the Legion's power. The Legion's power is called Feral Frenzy, and what Feral Frenzy is that it works like the Spirit's power, where it's got a power gauge that depletes when used, and when you use it all up, it slowly comes back like the Spirit's power. And when the power is fully depleted, you are stunned and you come out of Feral Frenzy. Also, it should be noted that if you choose to come out of Feral State, you are also stunned. And also, if you hit a person twice, you are also stunned. But when you use Feral Frenzy, the Legion sprints faster than the base movement speed, which is 110, and the Feral Frenzy movement speed is 120. The Legion can vault pallets and windows. The Legion, when in Feral Frenzy, cannot see scratch marks. The Legion, when in Feral Frenzy, has a super reduced missed attack and hit cooldown, where it's almost instant. You can just stab, stab, stab. Also, when you hit a survivor with Feral Frenzy, they enter the deep wound state, which is pretty much they get borrowed time. And also, when you hit a survivor with Feral Frenzy, all other survivors within the terror radius are revealed to you through a loud noise notification with the tentacles. It's a glowing notification to show where someone is. And when you hit a survivor with Feral Frenzy, they get the deep wound status effect, which I said before. And what the deep wound status effect does is it injures the survivor if they're not already injured. So if you're hit with Feral Frenzy, you go from healthy to injured, but if you're hit again, you don't go down like you would think. It removes a portion of your bleed out timer, which also seems to be 60 seconds. You have a 60-second bleed out timer when hit by Feral Frenzy. and injured people who are hit by Feral Frenzy, instead of going down, they receive this 60-second deep wound bleed out timer as well. Also, when you hit survivors with Feral Frenzy, it refills your Feral Frenzy power gauge, so you're able to chase after someone else and stab them, and then chase after someone else and stab them. It lets you be able to continuously stab people and chase after others. Now, it should also be noted, when you aren't in Feral Frenzy and you hit a survivor normally, it completely takes away your Feral Frenzy power gauge. Now, on to good things about this chapter and killer that I like. I think the killer, survivor, and map all visually look good. I think that the killer's perks are good. I'm not going to go over them because I don't really have an issue with the killer's perks. I kind of have an issue with the survivor's perks, but that's a whole nother video entirely. I think the Legion is a lot of fun to play. I think he's super fun. It's so fun to chase after a survivor, vault a window, stab them, go after another person, stab them. It's so much hectic fun. A good thing about the Legion is that with his power, you can vault windows and pallets to stop pallet looping and end the chase quicker, which I think is good. The Mori is super cool. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go watch it. It's honestly one of the better Moris out there. Hag will always be the best in my opinion. Also, the Legion is for people in a semi-cult, and what that means is that you can choose who you're playing as, although the different people you can choose don't affect how the game plays or how the power works. It's purely cosmetic. Now, those are all of the basic things you should know about before going into my reasonings on why the Legion is not good. Now, before I say all those reasons, I want to say that I do like this game. I think it's amazing. I'm not bitching just to bitch. I have a passion for this game. I love it. This game is pretty much my life at 2,700 hours, and I'm just a little... Honestly, I'm a little disappointed and tilted that, in my opinion, they would release a killer that's pretty much the second worst killer in the game. Every killer, I think, is viable in the hands of someone who knows how to use them, Freddy included, but I just think that the Legion is... there's a lot wrong with him. Now, I'm going to go over all the stuff that I think is wrong with the Legion. The new borrowed time, aka the deep wound state, sucks. Now, you might be wondering why I'm focusing so heavily on the deep wound state, and it's because the deep wound state is ingrained into the Legion's power. If the Legion hits you with Feral Frenzy, you will go into the deep wound state. Healing yourself with the deep wound state, like I said, is called Mending, and mending yourself is very quiet. I've been able to run away from the Legion, go behind a fence, and just mend right there without them knowing because it's so quiet. You still grunt, but you don't make the bandage, the loud bandage wrapping sound that you normally would make with normal healing. The next reason why the new borrowed time / deep wound status sucks is that mending, or the act of healing yourself out of the deep wound status effect, cannot be seen by Nurse's Calling. I don't understand why healing oneself out of the deep wound status is not considered a healing action. It was before, and it's not now. And I think this is terrible, especially against the Legion, because there have been times where I have been hit by the Legion twice, got my sprint burst. He wasn't able to see my scratch marks until he's fully out of the stun, because when you hit someone twice with the Legion's power, it stuns you, double stuns you in fact. So I'm able to run away, and he's only able to see my scratch marks right after the stun stops, and I'm able to run around a fence and start healing myself. And even if he had Nurse's Calling, it wouldn't work because for some reason, mending isn't a healing action. Another reason why the new borrowed time deep wound status sucks is that healing oneself out of the deep wound status only takes 10 seconds. And remember, this isn't affected by any perk, nor is it seen by Nurse's Calling. This is crazy fast. I don't understand why they decided to shorten the length of healing, especially in borrowed time, and especially after they raised the normal healing speed. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Another reason why the deep wound status effect sucks, especially in this one for the Legion, especially, is that when you're in a chase, the timer for the bleed out stops completely. I don't understand why they did this. I kind of understand why they did it for normal borrowed time. 20 seconds isn't a lot of time to get away from the killer and heal yourself, but when you're hit by Feral Frenzy, you get a 60-second bleed out timer. That's crazy long, and to top it all off, it stops when he's in a chase, giving you ample time to run him around, worry-free, looping him because you're not going to go down, when with old borrowed time, you would. Also, the Mend progress bar, the act of healing yourself out of deep wounds, doesn't reset if you stop doing it. Now, with normal borrowed time, it didn't reset, but that's because you had a short amount of time to get away from the killer to heal yourself, and also it didn't stop the bleed out timer if you were in a chase. It would just continue going, which I understood why it did that. But with this new one, with the short amount of time to heal yourself, the longest time the Legion gives you for the bleed out timer, and the fact that it's so quiet, I think it's crazy that you can heal yourself a little, get chased, lose him, and then heal yourself to full. And actually, I've tested it out. If you heal yourself a little bit and then get hit by the Legion's power again, which eats up some of your bleed out timer, but remember, healing yourself stops the timer, and also being in a chase stops the timer. I found out that even after getting hit a second time, normally you would think that would reset the healing, but it stayed exactly where it was. It does not reset if you get hit a second time by the Legion's power. Now on to why the Legion's power sucks, just the power. Feral Frenzy hits apply a 60-second deep wounds timer, and additional hits of Feral Frenzy upon someone with this deep wounds timer only eat up the deep wounds timer when I think it should down you. I think now on to why the Legion's power sucks. The Feral Frenzy hits apply a 60-second bleed out timer to you, or the deep wound state, and this deep wound state is paused in a chase. Also, this deep wound state is applied to healthy people and it brings them down to injured. It's also applied to injured people, which I think is crazy. I don't understand why the Legion's power gives injured people more time to loop them. I don't understand it. It's absurd. Also, if you hit the same person twice with Feral Frenzy, you do this animation. I think it's a blood wipe animation, but then immediately after, you're stunned because when you hit a person twice with Feral Frenzy, it automatically makes you come out of Feral Frenzy. But not only do you do the long blood wipe animation, you're also double stunned when coming out of Feral Frenzy. Kind of like how a little while ago, the nurse was bugged where she would blink, and then if she hit someone, she would wipe the blade, and then she would fatigue on top of it, which does not happen anymore. If she blinks and hits you, she just fatigues, which does not happen with the Legion. He's double stunned. Also, let's say you decide to tunnel someone with Feral Frenzy, and they're healthy when you start. You hit them twice, so they're down to half the bleed out timer, but they're still in a chase with you, so the timer is not going down. So then you chase after them, you get looped, your Feral Frenzy bar comes back up again, you use it and you hit them twice. You need to hit them 4 times with Feral Frenzy to get them down. 4 times you need to hit them to get them down. I think that's crazy. Also, I want to note that if you decide to prematurely leave Feral Frenzy, you're stunned. I don't know why this is a thing. Maybe they thought that leaving it would be too OP, but like as I pointed out, the Legion is not OP in any sense. So, for example, let's say you hit someone with your normal attack, which injures them, and then you go to chase after someone, another person with Feral Frenzy, and you come across that same person you injured with a normal attack, and you rationalize, oh, I should leave Feral Frenzy because if I hit him with Feral Frenzy, it's just going to give him borrowed time. Well, you can't because you'll be stunned and they'll probably get away because they don't have scratch marks, and you'll be stuck in place for a little bit because you decide to prematurely leave Feral Frenzy. Also, the Feral Frenzy speed is only 120% according to the Wikipedia. I don't know how accurate this is, but it seems pretty accurate from my playing as. It's not that fast. I don't think this is fast enough. If you look at all of the killers that have speed-based powers, like for example, the Hillbillies, Chainsaw Rev, I think has them run around the map at 176% when a normal survivor runs at 100% full speed, so he's 76% faster than you. The pig's dash is 164%, so the pig is 64% faster than you when dashing. And the only one who comes close is the Wraith. When he's cloaked, he is, I think, 126% or 26% faster than you, which I don't mind because he's nearly invisible, so I think it works out. But it doesn't work for the Legion. It's not fast enough. His base speed is 110 movement speed, so he's only 10% faster than you. And on top of that, his power only increases his speed to 20% faster than you, when the Trapper is like 15% faster than you, so you're only faster than the Trapper by 5%. And even the Trapper and all the other killers who are under 50% movement speed can still be looped. I don't understand why it wasn't buffed to be faster. I suspect it was put to 120% because you can indeed vault windows and pallets, but like that's only if you vault windows and pallets. Like his power, it takes a while for you to catch up to them just by running after them, and it's not helpful to the Legion's power to only barely be faster than an average killer when using the power. Also, vaulting with Feral Frenzy pushes you, I think, an extra, I want to say about maybe 4-5 feet forward, where a normal survivor vaulting a window or a pallet, they end up right on the other side. Now, this allows observant survivors, and I've also done it myself, it allows you extra space to sidestep the killer, go behind them, and jump right back over the pallet, and they can't do anything because they're automatically vaulted 4 feet in front of the pallet, which I think should be removed. Also, you might be like, well, with all of this, why don't you just run no-ed? And I'd be like, that's a good idea, but hits with Feral Frenzy do not apply any status effects or debuffs. That means hits with Feral Frenzy don't apply Sloppy Butcher, hits with Feral Frenzy don't apply Mangled or Blindness, and a big one, hits with Feral Frenzy do not apply Exposed and will not insta-down someone. I don't know why they did this. I'm hoping it's a developer oversight, because not being able to use a lot of the perks in the game, I think, is very bad design. Now I'm going to go into the movement speed of the Legion. I covered it a little bit in the previous sections, but I just want to state again that the Legion's base movement speed is 110%. Or he's 10% faster than a survivor. A survivor is moving at 100%. He is 10% faster. And this, I don't think, is a good speed because it leaves him open to looping. Just imagine you are against a huntress with no hatchets and she can only chase you. You can loop her for days. Also, the Legion's Feral Frenzy speed is 120% or 20% faster than a survivor, and only 10% faster than its base speed, and also only 5% faster than normal killers. I don't think this is a good place for him. He's slow, and his power is slow. It's just not a good place, and it just cripples him even more. Because when you use the power, and even if you get a hit on someone, then you have to wait for the power to charge, and while you're waiting, you're getting looped because you have no speed. There is no way to catch up for them because you're so slow. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about his add-ons. I have a problem with some of them. Some of them have confusing descriptions. Some of them don't even work. And one is just really boring to me personally. Now, the ones that have confusing descriptions are the Cold Dirt add-on and the Etched Ruler add-on. What the Cold Dirt add-on does is that it considerably decreases the cooldown duration of Feral Frenzy, and then the Etched Ruler add-on moderately decreases the time required to fill a power gauge. You might be like, well, that sounds like they do the same thing. You'd be wrong. What the Cold Dirt add-on does is that it decreases the blade wipe animation or the after hit animation when you're in Feral Frenzy to be shorter. So instead of just standing there like admiring your blade, you are out of that faster. And what the Etched Ruler does is that once you use up all of your Feral Frenzy, or if you decide to prematurely stop it, it makes that bar fill faster. Now, those are pretty confusing descriptions, and I don't think the add-ons should be changed. I just think that the descriptions should be clearer, because at first I thought they did the same thing. Also, and this is a big one, 2 of his add-ons don't work. It's like how the Pig for 8 months, the Creative Gears, and the Bag of Gears, they would only increase your speed at which putting a reverse bear trap on, and although the description said it would increase people's time to search jigsaw boxes, it didn't. It was recently fixed. The 2 offending add-ons are the Never Sleep Pills and Susie's Mixtape, and what those do are they considerably increase the Feral Frenzy movement speed. I tested them. I ran a certain distance with just base, and then I ran a certain distance with the Susie's Mixtape because it increased my speed the most, supposedly, and I got the same distance, the same time for both of them, meaning that the add-on did not make me faster, because if I had gotten to the destination in less time, that would have meant I was faster, but I arrived at both destinations with or without the add-on at the same time. So this shows that those add-ons do not work as of right now, which I think needs to be fixed. And lastly, one of his ultra rare add-ons is super boring. This add-on is the Fuming Mixtape, and what the Fuming Mixtape does is, while using Feral Frenzy, the repair progress of generators can be determined by the intensity of their aura. Now, this is like the All-Seeing ultra rare for the Wraith, and when you're cloaked with the Wraith with the All-Seeing add-on, you're able to see generators' aura intensity increase, so it gets brighter and brighter, I think, based on how complete the gen is. And that's all and good for the Wraith because he's able to stay cloaked as long as he wants. But with Feral Frenzy, you're only in there for about 10 seconds. I understand why they did it, because you could be using Feral Frenzy chasing someone and then notice, oh, that generator's aura is increasing in intensity, so I should go over there and check it. But the power doesn't let you go over there fast enough. You only get about 10 seconds of that increased movement speed before you're stunned, and then you have to wait for it to refill again. So it's just like, let's say you do use that add-on. You see someone's working on a generator because the brightness is getting brighter, or it's brighter than all the other gens around it. You can either A, use your power to go fast, slightly faster for 10 seconds over to the gen, and then, like, let's say you get there. Now your power's gone, and you're a huntress without Hatchet's moving speed. You're gonna get looped to shit until that shit's going back up. Or you can just go over there with your normal speed. They'll hear your heartbeat. You're slower, so it'll take you longer to get there. And then you'll use your power, which doesn't do anything, like I've said. It's just not a good add-on. I just feel like it's really boring, and a better add-on could have been used in that spot. Now that you know all of the problems with the new Borrowed Time, the Legion's power, and his add-ons, this is the part of the video where I'm going to state some fixes that need to happen, like these ones need to happen, and then I'll state some other ones that could happen. I'm going to start with the big one. New Borrowed Time state needs to be looked at. I don't know why they decided to change it as much as they did, but it is not good for normal killers, and it's just so bad on the Legion since it's ingrained into his power. One thing that I think they should do with the new Borrowed Time is that I don't mind them shortening it for the perk, but they need to make it a healing action again, so it's visible by Nurse's Calling and also affected by healing perks. I don't know why they did this. Snapping out of it for the doctor is affected by both of those, and it's not OP. Like, it's not like every doctor runs nurses or overwhelming so they can slow it down, like some of the devs think that would happen with the Legion if they ran Nurse's Calling and Mending was a healing action. It's not. Trust me, it's not going to be OP. Next, it needs to take longer to mend out of the state. 10 seconds is way, way too less. It's crazy that they thought this is good. Mending is almost as fast as it was when the game first came out. It was so goddamn fast when it came out. Healing? I don't know why they would go back there. What would make them think that that was a good idea? Another thing that needs to happen, and this is going to be going on to the Legion's power. I think the Legion's base speed is fine. Now, saying that, I think the Legion's Feral Frenzy speed needs to be upped to at least 130 to 140. Because you see all the other killers. You see Hillbilly, he's 176. You see Pig, she is 160 whatever. You see Spirit, and she's like 170. Now, I don't think the Legion should be that high because he can vault windows and pallets, and also he's able to see people, so I think it'd be a little unbalanced if he was able to run like as fast as the Hillbilly. It doesn't really make sense, but I think 130 and 140 would be a good place to start. Also, I think when the Legion uses their power to vault a window or pallet, they need to make it so that he doesn't vault 4 feet in front of the pallet, so people can sidestep him, go behind him, and jump the pallet again. That needs to be fixed. Next, the animation you get for stabbing someone twice with Feral Frenzy, and then you getting stunned because you're coming out of Feral Frenzy, needs to be changed. You should only have one of those. It's Nurse 2.0 all over again. That wasn't fun. It needs to be fixed. I'm pretty sure that was a developer oversight, but it needs to be taken care of. Another big one is if you stab someone with Feral Frenzy while they're injured, it gives them borrowed time. I don't think this should be a thing. It cripples him. It pretty much makes no mither OP against him, because if you're running all 4 no mithers, it forces him not to use his power, or else he's going to be looped for 60 seconds or longer because it doesn't go down. So I think if you get stabbed by his power, it should immediately down you if you're injured. And then when he gets that stun animation because he stabbed you twice with Feral Frenzy, and like let's say he catches up to you because he's still chasing you, and then he stabs you again with Feral Frenzy, I think you should go down. It shouldn't just eat away the timer. I think only the first 2 hits should eat away the timer. Makes it fair. It makes it so he doesn't have to hit you 4 times. It's crazy that you have to hit someone 4 times with this guy just to get them down. So if you're healthy and you get hit with it first time, you go in the borrowed time state, and if you get hit again by him, it eats up some of your timer, and then he's stunned, and then if he happens to go in a Feral Frenzy state again and hit you again, you should go down. My personal opinion, I think it makes him better. Now onto the Deep Wound Mending progress. I know that I said that it's an issue that it stays where it is, while snapping out of it doesn't, but I do think that if they keep it as long as normal healing, like they change it to be from 10 seconds to however many seconds, I forget healing is, I think it'll be fine. But if they decide to still keep it 10 seconds, they need to make it reset, like snapping out of it does. It's crazy fast, and you shouldn't be able to keep your progress. Also, you shouldn't be able to keep your progress if you're hit by something. Like, that needs to be changed. It's either it needs to be as long, mending needs to be as long as normal healing, or it can stay as short as it is, but if you don't fully do it, then it resets. Also, Feral Frenzy should apply debuffs like normal hits. So if you run that Sloppy Butcher, if you run that Third Seal, hell, if you get to the end of the game and know it activates, you can use your power to catch up to people, stab them, and apply whatever debuff you're using. I don't understand why this was not implemented. Now, I know I said a lot about the borrowed time, bleed out timer not going down when in a chase, but I think that's fine only if they implement the changes I said before, because those would balance it out. You'd be seen with Nurses Calling, it would be affected by Sloppy Butcher. I think it's only fair that you're able to have a second chance with borrowed time if you get stabbed. I mean, it's not really fair with his power, but like he'll be able to see you with Nurses. It'll go longer with Sloppy. So I think it's fair if you get chased again that you won't go down, because I can just see it being really frustrating to be always tunneled by the Legion, because he has that Nurses, he's got that Sloppy, so it would just be really frustrating, and I think this would discourage tunneling a little bit, only if they implement the changes I said before. If not, then you must have this go down in a chase. This would fix a lot of things with the Legion. Also, they need to fix the add-ons for the Legion. The ones that don't work, this is obvious. If they don't work, make them work. The speed add-ons specifically, the caffeine pills and Susie's mixtape don't work. They should. Fix it. Also, this segues into having the descriptions for Cold Dirt and Etched Ruler just be changed a little bit to be more clear on what they affect, because as of right now, it really sounds like they both affect the same thing. They're just worded differently. They don't. They affect two different things, but it just is too similar, both of their descriptions. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to stuff that can be additional fixes to the Legion to make them a little bit more better. I think his add-on Fuming Mixtape is a little boring. Now, this is just an additional fix because if they implement all of those things, it might be good on him. So it's just a little boring right now. It's a little lazy because it's copying the Wraith's add-on, but I put it in the additional maybe fixes because if they implement all of the other changes that I've stated, it might be good at him. We don't know, so that's why it's here. I think it'd be cool if in Feral Frenzy, if the Legion stabs you, the blood would glow like with Bloodhound. Now, this would go along with the Killer Instinct part of the perk, that he stabs you and he can see people around with his instinct. It'd just be, I think, a cool little addition. It would let him see people's blood. Like, if he slashes someone normally and then he goes into Feral Frenzy, it'd help him track them down more, because he can't see scratch marks, and it is kind of hard to track people, especially if you stab someone. It kind of makes you look down a little. With the addition of glowing blood, it could help, but like, I don't know if this should be an add-on or part of the base kit, so that's why it's in the additional maybe fixes part of this video. Also, this last one is kind of not needed, but I think it'd be really cool and go with the theme of the chapter. When the Legion enters Feral Frenzy, I think it'd be really cool if like a heavy metal guitar riff played. Oh, and also, this isn't game breaking, but it seems that whenever the Legion enters Feral Frenzy, they start to breathe heavily, which makes sense. They're in a feral state, they're moving faster, but it doesn't seem like that heavy breathing subsides after Feral Frenzy ends, and it seems like it plays for the whole game. This is just like, if you do everything else, like, you can crack this down, but like, it is kind of annoying to hear the killer be like all the time. Like, you fix it if you can, you know? It's not really important, but still. Okay, that is my full analysis on why the Legion is weak and also ways to fix them. Now, I just want to reiterate that I'm not bashing the devs for making a weak killer. I'm not calling the devs stupid. I'm not saying they're bad at their jobs. I'm just saying that this killer has so much potential. I love the way it looks. I love that it's like a cult with different people you can choose. Customization, I love it. They look all cool. I like the new map. I like the perks. It's just that you get this killer and then he's so bad. He's so bad. It just makes me sad because his power on paper sounds really cool, and then you play it and it's just so bad. And I know the devs can be so much better. I'm just assuming this was an oversight and they thought it'd be too powerful, but as you can see, it's not. And all he would need is a bunch of small tweaks. I know a bunch of small tweaks, but just a bunch of small tweaks just to be good. It's not that much. Now, I do have faith in these devs. They buffed the Spirit when she was a little weak before she came out. I'm sure that they'll do that before the Legion fully comes out. I love this game. I love what the devs are doing. I'm just passionate about this game, and it just hurts me to see a killer with such a cool concept be so bad. Please fix him. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this discussion on why the Legion is weak and how they can fix him. I just really want him to be fixed. It just pains me to see such a weak killer. I'm going to be doing more of these. I already have an idea for another discussion. I'll try to flesh it out a little bit more because it'll be a lot less long than this one. I think it needs to be said what's coming in that video. But anyway, let me know what your opinions on the Legion are in the comments below. I would love to see what other people think about them. But as always, if you liked what you heard, leave a like and subscribe if you already haven't. But until then, see you later.